Hi, this is Tropical Plants at 53 degrees north. So you might be able to see in the background some hints, splashes of red here. This is my Mandevilla vine, sometimes called Dipladenia. And my particular one is Mandevilla, synonym Dipladenia sanderi, which is a species of the Mandevilla vine. I absolutely love this tropical vine. It's done fantastic for me over the last couple of years. I've even done some propagations of it through cuttings, which is actually the easiest way to propagate it. I've given those away. I've done some more propagations, which I've got going on at the moment down in the propagator, which I'll show you. But today's video is all about propagating them from seed. If you want to do it through cuttings, then the easiest way is to wait till the end of the video, have a look at the card that I've put up there, and I've done a fairly short video which takes you through the steps to actually propagate them from cuttings. But if you're into the seeds, let's talk about how we can propagate Mandevilla from seeds. So I have here a packet of Mandevilla laxa seeds, the Chilean jasmine. Is it a jasmine? Actually, no, that's just a synonym for it. But this is a species that is native to South America. Will your own Mandevilla vine at home produce seeds? Well, the answer is probably not. Obviously, if you've got it in the house, you're not going to have any of the pollinating insects. If you've got it in a greenhouse like this, also not going to have any of the pollinating insects. I've had mine for 2.5 years. I've had no seeds whatsoever. Whenever the flowers have finished, they simply drop off. And actually, even in the wild, Mandevilla very rarely produces seeds, even if it's growing in its native habitat. Obviously, it must produce them, but it doesn't produce them very often. So the chances of your own producing seeds are quite slim. So the best thing to do is to just get on the internet and buy yourself some seeds. These are the first I come across, Mandevilla laxa. So I'm thinking that Mandevilla laxa will actually be better suited to my greenhouse. It's a species and it will actually go down to very low temperatures. I believe it will go down even to almost 0 degrees Celsius, but it won't take frost. Frost will kill it. But that would be really useful in a country like the UK. It's a very vigorous vine. It can grow up to 6 meters in length. Also, the Mandevilla sanderi can grow up to 6 meters in length. Mine's about 3 to 4. And if it didn't have the knockback of the winter months, then no doubt it would get up to its full size. Mandevilla laxa actually has a Royal Horticultural Society Award of Garden Merit. And the blooms are fragrant to boot. So let's get into actually sowing these things. Okay, so we've got a little propagator here. And Mandevilla, all Mandevilla, actually like a general purpose compost. So I've actually got a mix here which has coir in it. It's a peat-free mix, but it's a proprietary peat-free mix. So I've not had to do it myself. I've not had to wash any of the coir. So it's basically just perlite that's been added to it. I've added the perlite myself to make sure that it's got lots and lots of sharp drainage, because that's what all Mandevilla like. And I'm not causing any damage to the planet because I've not actually used any peat in here whatsoever. So these are quite deep seed trays, so I'm not actually going to put much more in there. I think I'll leave it at that, to be honest. And it's simply a case of tapping out the seeds. Well, these are fairly big seeds, which is always nice. I don't like the ones that look like dust. Usually one down in the corner there that you can't get out. I'll come to that in a minute. And you can see how big they are. Probably get, I'll be lucky if I get all of those germinating, but at least we can get them all nice and spread out and not too close. The germination takes 3 to 4 weeks, and they need to go in a heated propagator with a temperature of around 18 to 23 degrees Celsius. You don't want them to be any colder than that, because they will struggle if the temperature drops much beyond that. So I've got them in a heated propagator. I will be putting them in a heated propagator. I'm going to cover these seeds with a light dusting of the media, just so that they're in the dark there. I'm going to give them a bit of a water. I don't expect that I'll need to water them much again. I'm going to pop a label on and put the date when they've been sown, then simply pop the lid on like that, and then the whole thing can go in my heated propagator here. So this is all open, this is why we've got these lids on, and this goes to 18 degrees and it pops on and off depending what the ambient temperature is. And next to it you'll see that I've got some about 5 weeks old Mandevilla cuttings, and by now I know that they've rooted. Not that they're coming through at the bottom, but because very quickly these leaves start to die off if they don't root. So in there we've got 4 cuttings. Now they are quite slow, but back to the seeds again. Again, these are also slow. 3 to 4 weeks to germinate, but after that it can take a while before you get the seed leaves really start to change into the real leaves. So the general advice is wait until you've got 3 or 4 of the real true leaves before you then start to pot them on, and I believe that can take rather a long time. The same is true in fact of the cuttings. Once they do start to grow, then they can be changed into their own pots, and of course they can take a while before they start to vine. Mine actually took a couple of years before they started to vine, and then they really took off. And that's possibly because they were in the cooler side, and that was down to 12 degrees in the middle of winter. If they'd kept them in the warmer side, no doubt that would have happened a lot more quickly. So what I'll do now is I will go away and come back and film them again when they've germinated, and you won't have to wait for that. That will happen pretty instantaneously. Okay, so we are April the 1st, so it's actually, what's that, 2.5 months since I sowed these Mandevilla laxa seeds. So that would make that quite a while later, and you can see they're not huge, but they're successful. So what we actually got there, we've got 4 successful germinated seeds, and all growing fairly strongly. I brought them over to the greenhouse. They're actually being kept in the hothouse, so they're kept at a minimum of 17 degrees Celsius. So I had them probably about 2 weeks before I got what you see now. I think the first one started coming up after about a week, and the rest between 1 and 2 weeks. So that's pretty good germination considering. Bear in mind I had them in a heated propagator at a minimum of 18 degrees, bottom heat, and I had them covered with a plastic dome just to keep the humidity in there. So I counted 9 seeds, so that's a 44% success rate. 4 out of 9 actually germinated, which is okay. I mean, how many plants do you want? 4 plants is perfectly fine for me. After germination, none of the seedlings subsequently failed, didn't have any damping off, any rotting off. They're all growing really strongly. Now the advice is that you should only really prick these out once you've got 3 sets of true leaves. So the bottom set on each of these are actually the seed leaves. So we want 3 sets of true leaves after that. Now I've actually only got 2. On all of them I've got 2 sets. That one I've only got 1 set. All the rest of them, that's only just opening up its 2nd set. But in the normal way that I do things, I don't generally follow these things. Rules are there not just to be broken, but rules are there to be tested. I've got time to do it now, and I suspect other people are like this. We're not talking absolute optimal. To be absolutely optimal, leave it until you've got 3 sets of true leaves. If you're like me and you like to take a risk, you like to live dangerously, then, I think that's enough. I think they've grown enough, and they're actually getting a little bit thin now. They're stretching for the light a little bit because of where I had them over in the hothouse. So what I want to do is I want to prick them out, and I want to try and bury a little bit of the stem, just so that we might get some roots a little bit lower down. Or even if we don't, at least that's going to stabilise them a little bit. They're always better in their own pot, trust me. So what I've got here, I've got 3 ordinary pots. I could do with 4. In this pot I've got some sphagnum moss at the bottom, just to add as a little bit of a reservoir, but also just to stop the media from falling through. The media is quite a sharp drainage media, so what I've got there is peat-free multi-purpose compost. I had some vermiculite left, so I've put that in, like 50-50 vermiculite. I would have used perlite if I had it, but they perform the same kind of thing. They open it up, they aerate it, but they also hold on to a bit of moisture as well. And I've also put some stones in, some horticultural grit, just to sharpen up that drainage, because that's what Mandevilla like. They like a sharp drainage. You could use horticultural sand, you know, there's all sorts of mixes you could use, so long as it's not something that's going to retain moisture. Now, again, the general horticultural advice when you're pricking anything out like this is to hold on to one of the leaves and to sprise it up. Now, the reasoning behind that is that if you hold on to the stem, if you cut the stem, if you damage the stem, then you've lost that seedling. If you cut half a leaf, then you've not lost a seedling. However, having done this for 35 years, it's very unlikely that you're actually going to damage the stem when you pull it out. That's my experience. So I always find that when I do it with a seed leaf or a true leaf, inevitably the leaf snaps in half. So, you know, do that however you take that however you want it. That's what I do. I like to dig it up with some kind of implement. I'm going to use a label here, and I'm quite happy to use the stem. I mean, okay, what's the worst that can happen? It can break, and that's the end of it. But we've got 4 others, or 3 others. So there we go, and we've got quite a lot of root on that. That's quite nice, isn't it? To have a nice little root on it. So what we're going to do is make a hole. Nothing complicated about this. Shove it in and get a little bit more of the media, pop it around, and I'm going to try and get it so that it's relatively well buried up to those first seed leaves, and that will stabilise it a bit. Now, there's no need to put this at the side of the pot. It's not a cutting, it's already got roots, so that should help it to start getting off to a really pretty good start in life. So let's try this great big one here. It's funny, they don't always, the biggest ones don't always have the biggest amount of roots on. So that's the amount of roots that we've got on that one. And at this point I'll try and put some pictures of what the actual blooms of Mandevilla laxa look like. Yeah. I don't know what this one, I can't remember. I mean, I bought this from a seed company. I can't actually remember what colour it was. I think, off the top of my head, white with a yellow throat, possibly. I don't know, I can't remember. This is a species of Mandevilla. So I'm not expecting necessarily to get blooms straight away. Now, I've heard different things about this. I heard from somebody who actually told me I would have to wait a good 4 or 5 years before I got blooms if I've grown them from seed. But I also read something that said a few months. So who's right? I don't know. I guess a lot of that depends on the conditions you've got them in and how happy they are. It's not just cut and dried where plants are concerned. Now, actually, you know, this is always the case. The smallest one is actually the most sturdy with the best root system. So I am going to actually find a pot for that. You don't need to see that, but what you do need to see, I'll do that one in a second, is this is a cutting that I took from my Mandevilla sanderi. So you can see straight away, I mean, you know, the leaves are going to be slightly different because this one is a different species, Mandevilla laxa compared to Mandevilla sanderi, but you can see how robust the cutting is compared to the germinated seedling. So definitely, if you can get hold of cuttings, cuttings are much better, they're a much safer bet, and they're going to be far quicker to actually bloom. But if you want some of the species, or if you want something a little bit different that you can't actually buy in the shops, then you might be better having a go at seeds. And seeds have their own satisfaction in them anyway, I very often feel. So I'm going to sort this out, and in the meantime, if you love Mandevilla, then why don't you go and watch this care video? It's only a recent one that I've made, and it's actually an updated new version of looking after Mandevilla plants. And I think that if you really love them, you're going to want to keep them for a long time and make sure that you get the best out of them. So take advantage of my experiences here. I've been growing them for several years, and this video shows you all about Mandevilla care. And for now, I'll see you on the next one. Bye.